How many hours do you spend breaking down PRDs into user stories and loading them into Jira? In this video, you will learn how to automate the full pipeline from PRD to user stories to Jira without copy-paste, without manual formatting. By the end, you will be able to cut refinements from 3 hours with endless discussions to 45 minutes with consistent tickets and without losing the PRD context. I'm Nacho Basino, and every week I share how to use AI in product management practices. And I hope you are familiar with this situation. You have got solid PRD, stakeholders reviewed it, the team is aligned, everything is ready to start building. But first comes the breakdown into user stories. Writing each story, figuring out the right slicing, defining acceptance criteria, loading everything into Jira field by field, mapping dependencies. It's work nobody enjoys, but someone has to do it. And then comes the 2-hour refinement, where we end up discussing things that were already decided in the PRD. Nobody remembers exactly why we made that decision. It's not about lack of skill, it's cognitive fatigue. The story that you write at 6 p.m. isn't the same quality as the one you wrote at 9 a.m. when you were fresh. The context from page 3 of the PRD gets lost somewhere in the translation, and we fall into predictable patterns. The Odyssey story that covers too much ground, or the generic as a user that tells developers nothing. We know that 70% of rework costs come from requirement errors. It's 50 times more expensive to fix an error in production versus in design, at least until AI is writing 100% of its code. But this type of work, repetitive, consistency, dependent, basically translating from one format to another, is exactly where AI can take the work off our plate, and it doesn't just do it faster, it does it better, without getting tired, without losing context, connecting more information, connecting more dots. So what worked for me was using AI to automate this entire pipeline, not just generating stories, but creating them directly in Jira using integrations like MCPs. The process has 4 core steps. First, I give the AI the entire PRD, not just a piece of it or some scattered information, has access to more context, also GitHub, other project stories, technical docs. That's even better because it's the same principle as handling work with a junior PM. You give them everything they need to do the job right. So the more context it can leverage, the better the result you will have. I use a code project as my reusable user story creator. I load the product one-pager, examples of previous stories, and technical architecture. That way, the AI already has context on how we do things. Then the second step, the AI first generates the epic that groups the work from the PRD, and then breaks it down into atomic stories. Each story should be completable in 1 to 3 days. And here what's interesting, the AI keeps the full PRD context while generating each story, can connect the technical information, it doesn't get tired, it doesn't forget why we made a decision, and it consistently applies whatever quality criteria we define. It's not 6 p.m. for them, it's always 9 a.m. So they can really write very good quality user stories. And for each story in step 3, we also use the Gherkin format for accessing criteria, given, when, then. For example, given that I'm a new user on the onboarding screen, when I click next, then I should see step 2 of the wizard. This format has 2 advantages. First, eliminates ambiguity and enables the creation of automated testing. Developers prefer structured formats because it reduces guesswork during implementation. And of course, if you are using code generated by agents, that's also very, very useful. Now the magic happens in step 4. We save a lot of time because with attach an MCP configured to our project, stories get created directly into Jira, and we use Epic as a parent, then the stories as children, all fields populated. What used to take an hour of copy pasting and formatting happens in 30 seconds, and it's just magical. So now let me show you how this looks in practice, and we will take a real PRD and turn it into Jira tickets. But the next thing that we will do is to give it instructions. So again, as I was saying before, this is going to save instructions that the project will have inside. So when we start a chat, we don't need to put the instructions again. It can directly take it from here. So the instruction for this one is, you are a senior product manager who translates PRDs into clear, actionable user stories for development teams. The action is basically you will receive a PRD from the user and you will generate user stories with acceptance criteria grouped under epics. The story format, a specific persona, I want action, so that benefit. And the acceptance criteria will use the given when then format. Each story is completable in 1 to 3 days, and the result is basically the format in which we want the user stories. So we'll save these instructions, and with that we are ready to start the chat. And the chat will be very simple. I will give it a PRD. And I will basically give it a very basic instruction. Here's the PRD for the get onboarding feature, generate user stories. And as you can see, I don't need to put any other instruction because all the little instructions, format, etc. is already in the project. So as you can see here, it started a new chat. So now we have this, is in my recent history. But if we go up here, you will see that this is under user story creator. So it's basically working in the project and starting a chat inside that project. And you can see that this is already going very well. Epic is guide the onboarding wizard. We have a description, so the business values, or the kind of success criteria metrics. And then we have user stories, a welcome screen, onboarding context. You can see here that it has the story format as a new PM user entering product growth wise for the first time. I want to see a welcome screen, blah, blah, blah. And then the acceptance criteria is in the Gherkin format, given I am a user, when, then, and what you will see, kind of the fields that will be on the screen. As we were saying, this is very useful to remove ambiguity and to actually have this set up as tests before we start coding. This is actually very useful also for machines doing code. So for cloud code, this will be very valuable as well. And we even have some technical notes. And again, here, this is where the AI can go beyond what a simple PM can do, because maybe I'm not technical, I don't have this reference, I don't have this information, but it can basically, in this case, it went through our technical document and it kind of pick up things like, for example, hey, we have components that we can reuse, we have a route that we need to create for the URLs, we have what we need to store in terms of information. It can even connect to GitHub if we want and kind of review our code and give more technical details on the implementation. So all of these things are things that usually we will not be able to do, and will be a task that the research will be done by developers. And now we are shrinking that time both for the PMs and the developer. I took a long time to explain it, but if you can see this in only a matter of seconds, it created all the user stories. Story 4, story 5, story 6, story 7, story 8. So yeah, here's the summary. So 8 user stories. Here you can have a summary table, all of them with the estimation, small, medium, small, bunch of dependencies among the stories. So you can see that story number 1, the welcome screen, has dependency with the second one and the 6th and the 7th. So there's a bunch of dependencies here. And here is the estimation. So you can see now that in a matter of seconds, I went from PRD to user stories. This usually will take, I don't know if you have done this, probably 2 hours minimum, maybe more. And as I was saying, it also shrink time from the development side because it includes a bunch of development information that the developers will reduce the analysis and will be able to start coding much faster. But that's just part 1 of the magic. Part 2 of the magic is I can now simply first verify that if I'm connected to Jira. So here I have my connectors. You can see here Atlassian, so it's connected among a bunch of other things. But I will ask it to, using the Jira connection, create this epic and user stories in Jira in the demo project. And I will launch this. So what you can see here is that, by the way, connecting this to Jira is very simple. It's 2 clicks. Basically, you kind of say, hey, connect to Jira. You will create acceptance and it will start automatically. And then when you go to the details, you can see here that you have found ID, find the project, all things that if I do this manually or through APIs, I will need to collect all this information in hidden places. It did it all automatically. It found the project, it found the key for the project, and it's now creating epics. So you can see this is number 10th. It's creating kind of the Jira issue. We can see here that it will have a request. No, this is not the one. You can see here that it created the epic. You can see the issue type, the summary. You can see the description is using Markdown, and we'll see in a second how this Markdown is seen in the Jira project itself. But here, well, basically use all this information to create a very solid epic description. And now it started to create all the individual Jira user stories. Okay, now we are done creating the stories. You can see here a nice summary, kind of the epic with a little link to see the epic. We have all the stories I created with the Jira keys, the stories I did as we have from the creation, but actually the magic. Now, if I open Jira again, you can see I have a beautiful list of all the user stories. And of course, these are the user stories on the epic. Let me go to find the epic here in the list. And you can see here the epic beautifully written. Let me open it up. And I will show you here also the beauty of the markdown format that the machine is much better than us in generating. And you can see how beautifully it looks, like the epic description, business value, table for success metrics, kind of the wizard flow, the estimation for the entire user stories. And here the child work items, which are all the user stories we created. So the time saving is magical. Probably, I don't know, maybe 1 hour spent copy pasting things from Cloud to Jira were saved. The format is magical, but I think that even beyond the time is the consistency in the format is magical. But I think that even beyond the time is the consistency in the format. It will not get fatigue. It will kind of create everything with the same good format, the same good structure. And as you can see, is using my user to create it. So you can see here, reporter Nacho Bacino. This is because security, it works around these connectors and it uses your credentials to actually do the work. So to wrap up what we covered today, this work drains us because it generates cognitive fatigue, lost context, endless refinements. We also saw the 4-step framework, full PRD, epic plus user stories, Gherkin, push to Jira, and then how to prepare focused refinements with what was already decided, what we need to validate, and open questions. The most powerful thing isn't speed, it's consistency. The AI has the power to do this tirelessly, and with the format we predefine, connecting more information, getting into technical details, not only reduces time, also frees up cognitive load from our side so we can focus on more leverage activities, in value-adding activities like strategy, like planning, and that's the real value of this. I wrote an article with the exact prompt I used for generating stories, links in the description, and if you want to practice this with feedback from myself, we have a community in which we explore these topics every week, and the link is also in the description. You can contact me for more information. Thanks for staying until the end, and see you in the next one.